We're talking Nick Chubb on today's show, but really quickly, I want to remind everyone that we go live on the channel twice a week for the summer, every Tuesday, as we normally do at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then we're adding like a Friday happy hour of sorts, 2 p.m. Eastern. And on both of these live shows, we're going to have a Madden simulation as we progress through the Browns schedule and simulate what's going to happen. As today on Friday, we're doing Browns versus Giants week 3. But let's start talking about Nick Chubb. Could Chubb be back as soon as week 1? Kevin Stefanski was on the Rich Eisen Show just yesterday, and Rich Eisen's like, listen, I know coaches hate talking about injuries and the crystal ball stuff, but could we see Chubb week 1? And Stefanski was, as you expected, definitely non-committal. But I think this last sentence or two was really intriguing. He said, no time frame with Nick, as you can imagine. The way I feel about Nick, the way his teammates feel about Nick, we're behind him 100%. I would not doubt this young man. NFL Week 1 is 14 weeks away. That's a lot of time for Nick Chubb to continue rehabbing and get better. And listen, Stefanski could have just said very little, as he somewhat did, but man, him just saying I would not doubt him. Doesn't that kind of give you a feeling below the belt a little bit? A little bit like, ooh, we might see Nicholas Jamal Chubb sooner rather than later. I mean, go through his timeline with me here. Guy underwent ACL surgery November 14th. So that, in my eyes, is the real starting point for when the rehab begins, because you don't go back to the actual injury date. You go to the last surgery date. And so ACL, MCL, meniscus, that could take 9 to 12 months. And that would put him, if it's at 12 months, all the way November 14th this year. 9 months, go back in time with me on the very short end of things, and we're looking at the start of the regular season. But we are definitely in a full wait and see mode, because it's just way too early to actually speculate with good reason as to when we think Nick Chubb could be back. Right? We're going off of, Nick Chubb was running on land mid-April. Now we're going to try and get our Ouija board and figure out when that correlates to him coming on the field. No, that's just way too much reach. But we do have some actual historical examples to go off of. So Javonte Williams, that's the Broncos running back. He suffered a similar-ish injury to Nick Chubb, multiple torn knee ligaments in week 4 of 2022. So 2 years ago on October 2nd. Fast forward to the following spring, and Javonte Williams was limited at Broncos OTAs in 2023. He was a full participant on day 1 of Broncos training camp, and he started for Denver week 1, 2023. So Javonte Williams was able to make, a full recovery, ready to roll for week 1 after suffering multiple torn knee ligaments in a similar-ish time frame that Nick Chubb suffered his injury, right? Nick Chubb got that surgery November 14th. Javonte Williams a little bit before then, I believe, but don't quote me on that. So in the same neck of the woods. Now, unfortunately, Williams looked like a lot of running backs that come off a major knee injury due the next season. Didn't have that explosiveness, averaged 3.6 yards a carry, 774 yards. But Javonte Williams was able to come back in a short amount of time. He definitely surprised everyone when he was just limited at OTAs. And listen, Williams is an incredible athlete. They're all incredible athletes. This is the NFL. But Nick Chubb is in his own tier of incredible athletes. Now, Nick Chubb, unfortunately, was not limited at OTAs, and I doubt we see him at all during mandatory minicamp. But if we saw Williams a year ago make a near miraculous speedy recovery, Nick Chubb definitely strikes me as a candidate that could also come back on the earlier side of a given timeline. Now we're gonna run through, another piece of interesting information that indicates Nick Chubb could be back as soon as week 1 in just a moment. But if you want to get your hands on some more Browns gear, go to chatsports.com/CLE Polo. I put that link for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. If you want to deck out your Browns wardrobe while also staying cool and comfortable throughout the summer, this polo is an awesome get. It also makes for a great gift. So if you are like me and you procrastinate a little bit and you are looking for a new gift, chatsports.com/CLE Polo. So Jack Duffin, who covers the Browns for the Orange and Brown Report, in my opinion, he's one of the most insightful and intelligent like salary cap gurus. He put out a really interesting article that I want to kind of break down with you guys here on the channel. So Jack tweeted out, I expect Nick Chubb to be a full go week 1 for the Browns. If he starts the season on PUP, then the vast majority of his incentives are gone, and his previous $12.2 million deal realistically has a max value of $5.6 million and change. So Jack Duffin was able to kind of get his hands on the incentives in Nick Chubb's new reworked contract after agreeing to a pay cut. And Chubb agreeing to a pay cut, and a pretty sizable one as well, likely indicates that he knows he wasn't going to get a better offer on the open market from another team. And so this is his best chance to get a competitive offer, while also having an opportunity to make up a lot of the money that he lost in this reworked one-year deal with the Browns. But look at Nick Chubb's incentives here, okay? If he gets to a little over 1,000 yards, 1,050 to be exact, $900,000 gets kicked in. And for every single milestone he reaches, the money just keeps adding up on top of one another. So if he gets 1,200 yards, he's at $1.8 million, right? And he can make up to $3 million in incentives based on rushing yards and making the playoffs as well. How about rushing yards from what he did the last 6 years? So kind of compare, is he on track to kind of reach those milestones? I mean, up until last season, 1,500 yards, 1,200 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,400 yards. So, yeah, it's safe to say that if Nick Chubb's healthy, like these goals are not unattainable, but we're talking about Nick Chubb coming off a major knee injury. That's definitely going to throw things for a loop. How about touchdowns? Nick Chubb can make $900,000 if he gets 10 touchdowns. Jack pointed out that it's not exactly clear if this is rushing touchdowns or rushing and receiving touchdowns. But once again, he can make an absolute max value out of touchdowns, $3 million. And then the final, or one of the final incentives, if he's an All-Pro, $1.5 million. He's only been an All-Pro second nominee or second team. Yeah, once in his NFL career. If he's an All-Pro and they make the playoffs, an extra $250,000 gets on top of it. But what's probably most important for Nick Chubb and what's the easiest to attain is the active game day bonuses. So the first game that Nick Chubb is active for, he will receive a $225,000 incentive. Now, that's like chump change in the NFL, but it can actually really start to add up. Nick Chubb will receive $187,000 and $500 for a maximum value of $2.475 million for the next 12 games after the first game he is active. So, if he is active weeks 1 through 13, we're looking at a grand total of $2.4 million and change. Now, there are some qualifiers. He has to receive 54 snaps, whether that's total or just percentage. That won't be very difficult for him to do over a 13-game span. 170 rushing yards and 4 receptions. I'm not really sure why they picked those two numbers. They seem somewhat like ceremonial, but those are very, very easy. So basically, if Nick Chubb is active for 13 games, he can make a little over $2.4 million. So if you just go off the pure minimum incentives for Chubb, if he gets to 1,050 rushing yards, he makes $900,000. If they make the playoffs, tack on an additional $250,000 as long as he also gets to 1,050 rushing yards. 10 touchdowns, another $900K. 10 touchdowns and the playoffs, add an extra $250,000 as well. 13 active games, $2.4 million in change. So he can make a grand total of just by the minimums, by the way, just the minimums, $4.775 million in incentives. That would bring up a total cash value for Nick Chubb at a little over $7 million. And that's just going off the minimum incentive benchmark for each subject or for each different category. So with that all being said, is Nick Chubb going to go on the PUP list and miss the first 4 weeks of the season? I'm sure he doesn't want to, but if he is extra motivated to make back a lot of the money that he took away guaranteed-wise from his contract, reaching those benchmarks will be a lot more difficult if you make your NFL debut in 2024 in Week 5, right? To get to 1,000 yards and start at Week 5, not impossible, definitely not easy. So that's why I think there is some speculation from Jack Duffin and some other people kind of in the know about the contracts of, hey, this looks like a contract that someone would only agree to if they knew they were going to play a lot of games. And that's where you can kind of connect the dots as to looks like Chubb maybe could be ready sooner rather than later. Otherwise, he's really got no real shot at making a lot of these incentives. I think we see Nick Chubb return in September. I won't go as far to say, like Jack does, that he'll be ready for week 1. I feel like the Browns aren't going to put him out there if he's not ready. And I don't think Nick Chubb is like some kind of meathead where all he sees is dollar bills, and even if his knee's not ready, he's still going to go out there just because of the money. No, I don't think Nick Chubb is going to go down that path. If Nick Chubb doesn't feel confident in his knee week 1, then I don't think we'll see him week 1. I think we'll see Nick Chubb sometime in September, right? Remember OBJ when he came back from his torn ACL, the Browns did not put him on the injured reserve list to start the season, which indicated they felt like he'd be back in the first 3 weeks of the season. Otherwise, why not put him on IR and open up an extra roster spot? And sure enough, I think OBJ came back week 3 of that 2021 season. So I think we'll see Nick Chubb in September. I won't go as far to say we'll see him week 1, though. Now, there's a recent trend going on social media right now, which is every single sports fan remembers that mid-running back that they were just attached to and in love with because that was the first running back that they ever really watched when looking at football. So who was your first favorite Browns running back? Let me know down below in the comment section. I want to see all the Trent Richardsons down there too. So who was your first favorite Browns running back? Okay, wrap up the show. Pick a card. I forgot the cards. I know. Can you run and just get the cards, and then we'll have to. They're on my desk. Did I forget? No. I brought them. They're right here. They're right here. I thought I forgot them because I usually put them on the desk, but I put them on that table over there. Okay. Jack, which card would you like to go with?
Crisis averted.
Indeed.
I almost had a heart attack. Give me the 5 of diamonds.
5 of diamonds. I'm going to go with the 2 + 4, 24 for Nick Chubb, 6 of clubs. Ace of hearts. We rarely ever get aces. I don't know why. Aces are allergic to this game. I don't remember if the last time we got an ace at all. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you all later.